Right, so we have a next speaker from Poland, Tomasz Jarosz. He's a conservation and restoration specialist educated in Academy of Fine Arts in Warsaw and the Estonian Academy of Arts. His professional focus includes the conservation of wall paintings and polychrome wood sculptures, supported by diverse hands-on projects experience. He has worked on preservation of and study of historic objects, combining traditional techniques with modern scientific methods. Thomas?
Good morning. I'm really happy to be here and presentation my master diploma. By way of introduction, I would like to present the issue of conservation historical work transfer, which became the subject of my master thesis. Here are the first photos of the object showing their condition before conservation. And that transfer was from Museum of King Jan III Palace in Wilanów, Poland, and that is the Baroque Royal Palace located in Warsaw, Wilanów district. It was built in 17th century and rebuilt many times, so this palace has a long story. Here are the first photos of the object showing their condition before conservation. Just like you, at this moment, I didn't know at the first what kind of painted decoration these two fragments represented. The lack of access to the face, any documentation information made identification completely impossible. The only things that was certain in this situation was that I had a lot of work and huge challenge. I was not mistaken. And the lack of identification, incorrect information in the database, and the lack of the knowledge about the condition of the polychrome significantly hindered the process of applying the conservation work. Despite this, we managed to define preliminary assumption of objectives, which you can see of the slide above. At the same time, I searched through the various archives, but I didn't find any description matching the preserved transfer in any of the items. When I started working on the object, I initially had directly access only to loose fragments of plaster lying on the edge. After turning them over and conduction of preliminary analysis, I could expect that both transfers came from the something monochromatic composition, and then I have in my mind that maybe it's only like blue wall, and I was like, okay, my diploma may be the disaster, but let's see. It also became apparent early on that fragments from the first transfer had been mixed into elements of both composition. The condition of both objects was very poor. In addition to the complete defragmentation of the objects visible at the first glance, heavy soiling in the form of loose deposits was also observed. The lack of facing also proved to be a major problem. The absence of this important protective layer resulted in a large number of losses of the original polychrome and plaster, most likely already during the transfer process. A lot of adhesive between the red layer and the plaster was also observed, as well as numerous losses of the paint layer together with the lime whitewash, exposing the surface of the plaster. After commencing conservation work, with each successive step involving the removal of old protective measures, the actual condition of the object became apparent. I think you can see for yourself how dramatic the situation was at the point. Both transfer has reeds, but I decided to take the reeds from the second one because it was it is like distraction. But I have in my mind the first one is a little better, and I really want to use the original reeds to show the technique and technology, how made walls in this palace, and to show some viewers in the palace and like tourists to this technology, because I think that is interesting, because in the transfer it is not to show the technology like that. After removing loose fragments of plaster and securing layer, we began on preparing the site for assembly of the object. The main problem at this stage was the lack of accurate information about the condition and appearance on the face, and the need to tie up fragments that had an uneven plaster surface that grows left buried matting. It was necessary to be able to control the face, which should remain as even as possible during the gluing process. In practice, this meant that two planes had to be worked on the controlled at the same time. To solve this problem, I made two boxes with trusses were constructed. Box number 1 was placed directly over the object. Each truss was made of the trees suspended 10 centimeters above the transfer surface, as seen from the reverse side. This allowed for the control and identification of the fragments being moved. They were then sorted in box number 2. With truss constructed in similar way, but here a glass top illuminated from below was placed on the box. This made it possible to view the front and back during the matching of the fragments of the paintings. The matched fragments were glued together with the 20% Primal AC33 water-based acrylic resin dispersion, applying the glue in the dots. The glue elements were placed in the container with the sand, where the process again the joints surface under their own weight. I made it also in my archaeology mission with the gluing the fragments of wall, but this Egyptian 5th century wall was in better condition than this. During the first attempt to match fragments at the polychromy, difference in the condition of individual elements were noticed. Although they were originally located next to each other, forming a single painted decoration as a result of defragmentation and relocation. Here you can see example of fragments of polychrome decoration characterized by various types of damage of the paint layer. This was the result of transferring from number 1, the better one, by fragment look like. And you can see that it's simple monochromatic composition with the blue stripes. And that was the first time when I see what I conservate. Importantly, only after these tips had been taken was it possible to make fully informated plans for further conservation and for how the objects would be displayed once the work was complete. This also made it possible to plan the safest method of placing the transfer of the new backing materials, taking into account their varying state of preservation. Object 1 was in a much more stable condition, so it was decided that it could be merged into the single element on the right and then reinforced from the reverse side. To this end, it was necessary to build up the elements of lime plaster with the paint layer where the plaster had not been preserved. During the process of building up the plaster defect, a chalk glue primer with the gauze was first applied for protection, followed by a layer of lime sand mortar reinforced with synthetic binder. Plaster defects were also filled in cracks, but leaving free spaces in place where the paint layer had not been preserved. For additional stabilization, fiberglass mesh was embedded in the recesses and fiberglass rods with the thickness of 2 or 4 millimeters with glue in the place. In order to reduce the weight of the object, the empty spaces in the plaster on the reverse side of the object were filled with the low-pressure polyurethane foam. I also add red work because I thought that is really interesting to show it, but I really be afraid to red work use like the something technical to conservation that only look aesthetics to show the technology things. Before that, I impregnated original red work in polyvinyl butyral in ethanol in 10%. Object second was in much worse condition, so the conservation method had to be motivated and adapted to its needs. It was decided that large glued fragments of the objects would be coated with the Clusel G. I aimed to level them to the same height so that they could be even glued on the substrate. Plaster looses in cracks were filled with the limestone mortar. The glued fragments were additionally reinforced with two 4 mm thick fiberglass rods and fiberglass mesh. This preparation of the plaster fragment together with the polychrome allowed them to be mounted on the stiffening support structure. So what kind of support structure? In order to develop a suitable supporting and stiffening structure, it was decided to design an individual base that would provide the museum in Wilanów with flexible exhibition option. I wanted to choose a solution that would allow the transfer to be presented both vertically and horizontally, because still I don't know what is it. And in a way that would most faithfully reflect the original location of the paintings, which, as I turned out during the work, were part of the ceiling decoration. The intervention layer consisted of the polyurethane board with the mineral mortar modified with the lime, together with the fiberglass mesh. The mortar was made of the same material as the adhesive used to glue the transfer onto the new substrate and was applied to the board in such a way as to create a suitable neutral background that did not interfere with the aesthetic appearance of the buildings. Next was a layer of shellac isolation, followed by support layer consisting of a tube layer of 1 cm thick aluminum honeycomb spacer plates with the custom-made aluminum frame integrated into this middle layer of bonded with epoxy resin. Fiberglass and textile separated the spaces plates so that the epoxy resin would not penetrate too deeply into the honeycomb cells. That is how both transfers look after being applied to the new stiffening and supportive structure. As it turned out, they depict monochromatic architectural motifs, although it is not high-class figurative representation fragments of this painting decoration are a great importance to the museum. It is historical decoration of 2 rooms in the Wilanów Palace, which is currently a museum complex focusing on the presentation of a historical interior design. So I have in my mind, transfer is really controversial, transfer of wall painting is really controversial. And I think that is really something important because conservators don't make the transfer so like that. And so I'm looking, what is it? Yeah. This is how buff transfer look. And from the moment I was able to recognize the object and what they show, I began conducting archival research to identify them in correct information, made the search very difficult. However, after the detailed analysis of the cracks, length and the stripes, I found painting in archival photograph from 1916. According to archival sources, these polychromes date back to the second half of the 19th century and are attributed to works related in the project of Francesco Lanci, an Italian architect. They are identified as ceiling paintings in the north wings. What happened that the paintings were transferred? While researching the archives of the National Institute of Heritage, I came across information about extensive work in the North Wing. The transfer was carried out during the reconstruction carried out by the PKZ Monument Conservation Workshop. The role of this painting was reduced to that of the inventory material. But this was zero information about that they made transfers. That's only, we made something like to preserve some sailing, like, okay, what? And then I think, probably that is the 2 transfers. Because they have no numbers, no information, and yeah, that was really hard to recognize this. I made a visualization because I think in this moment, in these 2 rooms, it's only white ceiling. The palace, the most important thing in the palace is to show the great historical interior. So how they can do it with the white ceiling, without nothing, with 2 rooms. And I want to prepare them good visualization, how they make something on it. That is the black and white visualization and the color one. In summary, as part of my master thesis, I carried out of the conservation of two transfer of wall painting objects that had not yet been identified, which had been stored in a warehouse for a long time and due to their condition and lack of recognition would most likely remain in the same location for a long, long time to come. Thanks for the work carried out, it has become possible to make the objectives available to visitors in the museum space. The exposition allows for the presentation of the original techniques and technologies, both in terms of the painting techniques and the method of preparing plastered ceilings. In addition, the combination of the transfer and digital reconstruction allow for the presentation of historical elements of the interior. Where the ceilings are currently white, I also hope that in the future my work will enable the reconstruction of the painting decoration of the ceiling in both rooms, taking into account the option of installing or not installing the transfer in their original localization. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas. Do we have any questions in the audience, please? Anyone? Maybe? Okay, I'll ask you then. You had a very intricate methodology. Would you, if you had any more work like that in the future, would you improve your methodology, or it's like very complete?
I think yes, it's working. Like it is now. Before that, that was the only like relic. Now it is two objects that show the stories, show the interior, show a lot of things. So and that was really fast job. Like I made it like 2 months. So it is possible to working. Like a lot of transfer made like a long time. So I think yes, that's true. I made it again.
Okay, thank you. I think we have a question. Yeah.
Hello, Tomasz. I'm Hilka. I wanted actually 2 questions. One question is how much you follow the pre-existing techniques like I don't know, the fragment project in Assisi, which is in a way similar. It's not the transfer, but how to consolidate fragment, how to put the fragments together, or did you follow the existing methodology?
Like gluing fragments.
Oh yeah, or how to, but it's not only gluing, but it's all the, how to get the composition together.
Composition, I like use everything on this glass. Like I take on the reds, on the back, and look on the monochromatic composition and the brush like sign, and take it like the mistake and take one. Oh, that's working. Oh, that's not. So that looks like
okay,
that.
Okay. Just what was the question is more like in recent history, there are quite some fragment projects, and they really developed a methodology in Italy, especially like in Assisi, in Tuscany. Did you go through the existing methods and then develop yours, or you just started from scratch?
Like sketch. Like,
okay, yeah, it's okay. But the other question is that if you proposed kind of a reconstruction, possible reconstruction of the ceiling, would you, if it was your choice, would you insert the existing original historical fragment?
Yeah, I prepared this object to put it on the ceiling. So it is possible to take it and make some reconstruction in the space where it's not the original wall. So it is prepared for that, but I think the museum don't have so much money and time to reconstruct it. So I wanted to made it, but I am like sure they not. but it is prepared for that.
Okay.
Yes.
To insert it really physically, not to
Yes.
expose it like next to it,
Yes,
but really
exactly.
to expose it.
Yeah.
Okay. And but where it is now, the fragment?
In the museum, and they're
Okay.
thinking now what they can do with it, because like I finished it last time, and they really want to do it because the north wing is in conservation, so they really want to put it somewhere. But the problem of the Museum of Interior is everywhere, furniture, paintings, and things. So they don't have place for too big transfer of wall. Like they have a lot of walls, and they can build the second palace. So that's the problem. Yeah.
I would like to admit that Tomasz work was extremely hard and difficult to do. But in Poland we have a long tradition of transfer. So we have a special studio of transferring of the mural painting and also the strap postucco techniques, and it's situated in Krakow. And students also work in the past with transfers. So we transferred some fragments of the Byzantine painting from the Orthodox monastery in Supraśl. And we had some experience with it, but this is the challenge of this work was not to have access to the face of the painting. And I think with the Wilanów staff, you are going to find a very nice place of the exhibition in the palace. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, that wasn't a question. We have more questions now? Okay, then I think thank you, Thomas. And
Thank you very much.